Hi everybody, just a really quick check-in today. Hopefully you're all coming to the Collaborate tonight or you'll get the chance to listen to the recording. If so, the attachment I have today, the Excel spreadsheet about traditional theory, will be repeating itself. Quite a few of you made some really astute observations this week. Firstly, that traditional theory is very alive and well. It helps us describe some conflicts we see around us: North Korea, India and Pakistan fighting over Kashmir, even the South China Seas. These were a few issues and topics that have come up in the last couple of weeks. But also, as at least one person noted as well, that no one theory can explain everything, which is why in subsequent weeks we'll be looking at a body called critical theory, which is almost everything after traditional theory, arguing that traditional theory was too narrow in order to explain all the new security issues that came up after the Cold War, and that in particular traditional security theory was completely unable to predict, I suppose, the fall of the Cold War, the fact that for example, Russia's economic woes really brought it to its knees, and despite the arms race and the build-up in this bipolar world that Russia and the US had created, it wasn't enough to keep it afloat. And realism was completely ill-equipped to be able to explain that. And the reason why is because theories provide us with a lens, so they do help us to understand the world in which we live. And the reason why theories are often replaced or extended or there's new additions is because something happens and someone says, this doesn't quite cut it anymore, we need something new. And so in this way, you don't need to look at theory as right or wrong, but rather as options. And ideally, as we go along in this course, you will match topics that interest you to a theory that helps explain it. So with traditional theory, there's three key questions you should ask about any theory to work out what the difference is and to know how to use it. So firstly, who are the main actors? So with traditional theories, it's very definitely the nation state. But not only that, but they look at the nation state as one entity. It's not made up of departments, political parties, anything. It's just the nation state, and all nations will act in similar ways in order to secure their security. So that's basically the basis of traditional theory. So in the Cold War, you had US, you had Russia, and you had a whole lot of other countries that were aligned with US and Russia. The nation state, no one really thought about ethnic communities, how they were divided up, anything else, national identities, any other issues. So this has lent itself to a focus on militarism, particularly in the case of realism, which is a subset, which is a type of traditional theory. Where you look at the idea of threat as being direct threat, military threat, one country to another or one set of countries to another, and countries' actions are to either threaten another country or to protect itself against the threat. So again, it's a very narrow type analysis, but it has its place. And like I said, the wider theories get, the harder it can be to use them sometimes as well. So liberalism could also be seen as a subset of traditional theory. Typically when it comes to security, liberalism isn't as popular, but it could be used to argue that nation states will trade with one another and develop economic relations or act according to international law and become good international citizens. And by doing all of this, they act in ways that will enhance global security and their own security. This is often used to explain the almost absence of large wars after World War II, because trade just exploded between global nations. So we didn't see the world wars repeating themselves. So that's really traditional theory. That's the type of focus that we're looking at. And next week we'll start getting into critical theory, where scholars were basically saying too narrow. There's a whole raft of new security issues, from feminism to food security to the environment, terrorism. We still recognise that there is sovereign nation states and countries, but they are not the only actors, and even they don't act the same way. We need to look at some differences between the states. So critical theory incorporates quite a lot that comes after traditional theory. But like I said, it doesn't mean traditional theory is dead for those of you who like a bit of realism or like to look at some of those type of issues along the course. Anyway, I hope to see you in the Collaborate tonight. Otherwise, it will be recorded. Thanks, everybody.